A very warm welcome to my community. I'm Sherwood Lakaski. As always, I'm pleased that you have joined us. This is your weekly program that allows our people to share that rich history and heritage of their communities and so enrich the lives of all of us. Now, this week we continue to journey back to the early 1900s at a time when a group of East Indians arrived here in Barbados with little more than hope and determination. Despite their beginnings, these enterprising individuals quickly recognized the needs of Barbadians and set about providing for those needs. Through their unwavering dedication, they offered goods on credit, earning the trust and respect of local community members. Their roles extended beyond mere trade. They became confidants and advisors, offering counsel and guidance to those in need. The contributions of these East Indians have been instrumental in building Barbados, and interestingly enough, this has left an indelible mark on our history and culture. In this episode, we continue to explore their remarkable journey and the profound impact that they have had on our society. Sabir Nakuda places it squarely in perspective.
As you know, the condition of the Barbadians from 1838, from the time of slavery until 1937, the condition of the agricultural workers were akin to slavery. The condition was so bad, only politically, but also socially and commercially, that the people were not in a position where they can meet their own everyday demand and so on. And then earlier we also talked about, in the earlier interview we talked about then in 1910 the itinerant trader came, Bashat Ali, and he started a niche business which is going house to house, selling his goods, his merchandise, basic stuff like cutlass and shoes and boots and coats and school uniform for children and so on a credit basis. Otherwise, the black Barbadians could not afford to buy it on a cash basis. And so that was the beginning of the itinerant trading business, as we know. And so during the riot, so for example, we started on the 26th of July in 1937. And after that, there was this thing called the Dean Commission. And they had people like Mr. Ward, who was who then became the Governor General of Barbados and so on, interviewed various members of the community, including the members of the merchant class, and also then they also talked about the itinerant trader or the Indian peddlers who were going around selling their merchandise on a credit basis. And in their conclusions, this is what they decide. This is what they said. They said that these peddlers were really marking up between 100 to 300%, and that this is really the reason why the black Barbadians are being pauperized, and that they also suggested that that this class of trade should be discontinued. And so there is no evidence to suggest that that was the situation at that time in Barbados. On the contrary, in other words, on the contrary, when they had spoken to the merchants did not give them that feeling, or did not say to them that the peddlers were really marking up 100 to 300%. And so I think we need to remove that myth of itinerant traders marking up 300%. Maybe this was one of the ways of passing the buck. In other words, rather than the mistreatments of the black Barbadian population by the colonial imperialists, with poor housing, poor sanitary condition, poor wages. Black Barbadians working 5.5 days a week from sunrise to sunset. Uh, all of those developments, or all of these are the things that were happening to Black Barbadians, right? They were deprived of proper housing, proper sanitary conditions. There was no education for the Black Barbadian children, and so on. And so they had to look for scapegoats, I suppose, without any evidence. And so this is what they say, is that the peddlers were marking up 300%, and that was the cause of the pauperizing the Barbadian community, Barbadian people, and so on, and that these traders, this kind of trade should be discontinued. But on the contrary, I would like to get the permission to read a conversation between Justice Ward and one of the merchants in Swan Street, if I may do so. And so on page 157, there is a conversation relating to the peddlers. It's a conversation between Justice Ward and Mr. J.K. Granham, and Mr. Granham is the one who is giving the evidence. And so Mr. Ward asked, do you know whether the operation of the itinerant traders affect your business or that of Swan Street generally? I am referring to those men who go out in motor cars or on bicycles and sell cloth in Bridgetown or in the country and collect the money however they earn. Witness: it is difficult to say so. Some of them come in and buy from us at regular prices. Do you say some of these traders come in and buy from you? That is what Mr. Ward says. The Indians do. If the material is being sold at 40 cents, they would come in and buy a quantity at 1 shilling 6 pence and take it into the country and sell it at 2 shilling or 2 shillings 6 pence. I repeat, they will take it into the country and sell it at 2 shilling, which would mean that they would be marking 50%, or 2 shillings 6 pence. So that would be about 100%. And they usually come back for more. Mr. Ward, I suppose their normal profit would be about 50%. And so Mr. Granham responded, say, I could not say definitely whether it is 50% or 5%, but it is generally believed to be about that means 50%. So there is no evidence even within the evidence given by those merchants from Swan Street that the East Indian itinerant peddler was marking 300% and pauperizing the population of Barbados. In 1937, up to 1937, there were no more than 50 itinerant traders. So from 1910 until 1937, there were no more than 50 itinerant traders. And there were about 20 Bengalis, there were about 25 Gujaratis, and there were about 10 Sindhis. But of the 10 Sindhis, maybe most of them were having their stores in Swan Street or McGregor Street and so on. So here you have less than 50 individuals going around in the countryside on bicycles, catching bus, walking, and selling their merchandise, for example, the raw material, for 2 shillings 6 pence. And in a small suitcase, which could hold maybe 10 pieces. And you expect that they would then pauperize the community of Barbados. So this just goes to show that rather than putting the blame on the colonial imperialists for keeping Barbadians in a position akin to slavery, they had to look for some other scapegoat to blame for the situation and the riot that took place. And if really the East Indian itinerant trader was really selling his products at 300%, do you not think that on Monday the 26th of July, when the riot started, that one of the easiest target they would have been for, right? Because here you have, according to the commission, the East Indians were ripping off the black Barbadians, right? So the first target should be the East Indian, and they were easy prey because they were living in Market, which is just there by Swan Street, and they were living in Wellington Street, they were living in Chapman Street and King Street and Mason Hall Street, and on that day when the rioters were running all over the place, they could have easily gone to the homes of the East Indians, and of course they could have harmed them. The second day, when the rioters went on the countryside and dig up the yams and the potatoes and so on, the East Indians were there with their suitcases and their bicycles. They were still peddling their wares. And if they were really the ones who were pauperizing the black Barbadian community, then they again would have been the easiest target. That did not happen, right? And so this kind of misleading information and suggestion, I think it is time for this type of information to be put to rest now. So let me give you another example, and that is an example of my own experiences. So I came to Barbados in 1958, and I remember, so we passed in 1937, right? I came to Barbados in 58, and I remember what the East Indian traders used to do too. They used to have a Thursday as a day that way they were called their customers in town, because remember they had a small suitcase, so they couldn't carry everything. So there were customers who wanted a pair of shoes or wanted a hat, or they or even wanted trousers made. So they don't know how many yards of cloth that they would need for trousers or so on, or for a dress. So what they would do, Thursday was the day that East Indian will call their customers who needed to purchase the items from Bridgetown stores. And they would call them, and I remember, for example, my dad, so Cave Shepherd used to give them credit, not the other stores like Nichols and so on. And my dad would tell me, okay, well, go Cave Shepherd with Mary and Janice and see what they want, because remember, he's getting a limited credit from that particular store. So I would go with Mary and whoever the customer is, and they will choose whatever they want. And then the sales lady or salesman in Cave Shepherd will give them the item. So the customer knows exactly how much money that particular item costs in store, and also knows that the itinerant trader will only mark up 50%. So when Saturday or Sunday, whenever my dad goes, or whenever the itinerant trader goes to the Barbadian purchaser, he or she knows that on the card, if it's $50, it never used to be so much money anyway. It always would be then he would mark up 50%, and then they would pay accordingly. So again, black Barbadians were not stupid, right? That they would let someone mark up 300% and would not create any rancor or problem, right? Up to today, you see, after one, although the Dean Commission say that that type of activity should not be encouraged, and yet the opposite is happening. In other words, today, after 112 years, right, the itinerant trading still flourishing, and the generations of the children of the itinerant trader and the generations of the children of those who purchased the black Barbadians are still dealing with each other. So this is continuing from generation to generation. And if it was, they say, 300% markup, then that business or that trade would have died long time ago. Why don't we look at what is happening today when you go to one of those stores to buy hire purchase items? You know, no one knows all the hidden charges. No one knows about the hidden bank charges. It could be more than 100%. It could be 200%. And yet, because you had to look for a scapegoat, and so the commission decided to look for the itinerant peddlers as a scapegoat, really, to to level these kind of charges. And they were also saying that, of course, the seamstress did not get any job because a lot of seamstress then became unemployed. They didn't become unemployed because of the East Indian traders, because the East Indian traders were actually were creating a job for them by supplying their customer 2 and 3/4 yard piece of cloth, whatever it is, for dress or for other items. And so they were creating jobs. They are not the ones or the cause of the seamstress not getting any work. It is possible that it could be because then the ready-made clothing started then to come into the country, and that could be one of the reasons. And the most important reason could have been because the lack of finances by the black Barbadians to purchase any of the items that they wanted to purchase. So the colonial imperialists has deprived the black Barbadians not only that has to do with poor housing and poor sanitation, but also to do with poor education, and every aspect of Barbadian life were controlled and dictated by the colonial imperialism.
Okay, and the excerpt you just read, that was from the Dean Commission.
It was from Dean Commission, and I forgot to tell you the pages, so please do bear with me. It is the one that they talk about pauperizing and so on was at page 270, and the conversation between Justice Ward and Mr. Granham is on page 157. Anyone can look it up.
Well, we took his advice. We read the pages of the document that was produced from the findings of the Dean Commission, and there we found the evidence of the living conditions of our people during that period. Now, let us continue to learn of their charitable work and their dedication to fulfilling their mission here in Barbados.
From the first day that they landed in Barbados, the East Indian Muslim community were helping. They were helping the black Barbadians, and they were helping those who were in need, because one of the principles of Islam is that God is one, and God alone is worthy of worship. And second, that you must be your neighbor's keepers. So Jesus said the same thing. First of all, the commandments is, that God is one, and the second, he says likewise, that love your neighbor as yourself. So this principle applies in Islam too. And so you give charity secretly, not openly. So give a charity in a sense that when your right hand gives, don't let not your left hand knows what your right hand gives. And so from the first day when the Muslim itinerant traders were going around in the countryside, they were very aware of the dire need of the black Barbadian situation. And so that is one of the reasons why you would find that whole system is working, because that they were very lenient towards their customers, firstly, that they could, they would pay, and sometimes, they would pay you this week, but next week they might not pay you, but they would continue with that. And they are aware of their customers' need. So you would find that many of them would have helped the children after even giving credit, help with the school clothes, help with the school shoes and so on. So they have been doing it, and when they know that there's a difficulties, that Muslims would always be there to assist, but not only materially, but also psychologically, and they also used to play a part as counselors, because there were many, many, many black Barbadian customers would trust their itinerant trader, their salesman, about their own personal problem. Then they would go to their own neighbors and they would say, well, Mr. Nakoda, this son of mine, this worthless boy, he is not listening to me. Please speak to him, and because the respect that they carry, right? And then the person would then speak to him. Of course, sometimes the boy would listen, other time he would not. And even if they have other problems, even domestic problems. So these are and that is also considered a charity. Charity is not just giving financial assistance. Even if you help an old lady crossing the street, that is part of charity. And so Muslims have always been giving charity. Muslims have always been helping. When the Queen Elizabeth Hospital was being built, the members of the Muslim community went to the Minister of Health and tell him that we would like to help build this Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And he says that you will have to form an association. And they did. And they collected the money, went to every home and collected the money and donated whatever sum that was, about $1,300 in those days. And they were also helping some of the other seniors home in Barbados, collectively and individually. And of course, when COVID came, you will find that Muslims were on the ball because they knew every customer. They knew who needed help. Because remember, they go in the countryside every day, right? So every day would know. And what they would have done is that they then would collect the money from the Muslim community. So members of this mosque then, for example, or this community, Cave Hill community, would come to every homes and collect the money so that they could do a package, a hamper or whatever it is. But they will then get in touch with the representative of the community. Then he would be able to guide them, right? That look, we would need some in, for example, Hainesville, or we would need some money, some of things to be delivered, to Whitehall or whatever the case may be. And they would go with their vans, right? So each mosque would do it, go to different places in Barbados. And every week they would do that. That's on a collective basis, but on an individual basis. So for example, and you are working in Checker Hall, and you know who is really in need. But then you will also give from your personal wealth, whatever money you have. Because charity, right, in Islam, they say that you should give charity every day. Every day you should give a charity. So charity plays a very, very important role in the life of Muslims. Actually, there are many Muslims, and including my home, we usually have a box. Every day, or we try our best to put something in that box, so that when the time comes and somebody comes to collect some money, then we can dip into that box and to give to either Salvation Army. We do. You understand? Or give for any other need. If they need, for example, coolers in schools, and you need other items, then some you'll see it highlighted in the news and so on. The others are not highlighted. And we also educate our children from small, so that and make sure that they also learn to put something in their little box, so that we teach them that charity plays a very important role in the life of a Muslim.
Well, this series was conceptualized to celebrate the spirit of charity and the importance of being your neighbor's keeper, values deeply rooted in our culture. Our East Indian community, now an integral part of society, continues to contribute significantly to nation building. Love changes everything. Now, this mini-series on the East Indians' contribution to our nation will continue next week at the same time. In the meantime, do take good care of yourself and look out for the interests of your neighbors. I'm Sherwood McCaskey.